Indiana Fever front office is about to do another roster overhaul for the 2026 WNBA season.
Okay, so the Indiana Fever just pulled off a move that absolutely no one saw coming. And I mean no one. Just hours after being eliminated from the playoffs, they released 8 players in a single night. Just like that. The entire WNBA went into total chaos. Fans were stunned by what they were seeing. Insiders were scrambling to make sense of it. Even rival coaches were completely blindsided. So, what could possibly drive a franchise to clean house this quickly? Was it part of some master plan, a calculated rebuild that had been in the works for months? Or was it just a panic move, a desperate reaction to yet another early playoff exit that left everyone disappointed?
A lot of players will be exiting the building like Elvis, bruh. They gotta get the hell out of Dodge. Now, I'm telling you right now, I believe more than half of this team is going to leave. I just got to keep it real. A lot of players is going to leave. I believe a few big names is probably going to leave. And more importantly, we need to get the ball back.
One thing's absolutely clear. This isn't just about basketball anymore. Not even close. This is about egos clashing behind closed doors, power struggles in the front office, and a desperate race to build a championship-caliber team around Caitlin Clark before the window closes. And now that the dust is starting to settle, everyone's asking the same questions. Who's actually staying? Who else might be gone soon? And what does all of this mean for where the Fever are headed next? Because the real story behind these 8 cuts goes way deeper than anyone first realized. And it all starts right here, with what was really happening inside that organization.
No one projected them to go this far, especially without Caitlin Clark. Now, granted, they was projected to be, final contenders, but that was with the roster that they had. Obviously, they had a whole nother roster, and like I keep telling y'all, momentum was the key.
When that final buzzer went off, it wasn't just the end of their playoff run. It was the end of an entire era for this franchise. Inside that locker room, you could feel the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. No joke. Players who had spent the entire season battling injuries, constant rotation changes, and all kinds of locker room drama, suddenly realized their futures in Indiana were hanging by a thread. The coaching staff wasn't saying much. The mood was incredibly heavy, and whispers started spreading before anyone even left the building that something big was about to happen. Sources close to the team say the decision to release 8 players wasn't an overnight call. This move had been brewing for weeks behind closed doors. Rumors of serious disagreements between the front office and head coach Stephanie White had been circulating for months, especially over playing time decisions and team chemistry issues. The Fever's late-season collapse exposed every weakness they had. Poor rotations, visible frustration between veterans and rookies, and a lack of cohesion. By the time the elimination came, management had already made up its mind about what needed to happen next.
We all know Stephanie White was running a whole lot of sets, bro. Whole lot of sets, whole lot of off-ball things, whole lot of things that Caitlin Clark really don't like to do, bro. Let's just be honest. Caitlin Clark is being the biggest trooper for this damn basketball team, but I think, just like I stated before,
the Fever had invested everything into Caitlin Clark, the league's biggest star and marketing powerhouse. But as the season went on, fans started asking the tough question. Why wasn't the team actually built around her strengths? Analysts kept pointing out that the offense had completely drifted away from the fast, free-flowing system that made Clark a college legend. Instead, it turned into a rigid, structured setup filled with forced sets, slow ball movement, and lineups that didn't make sense. Clark did her best to adjust. She really tried. But the lack of rhythm was painfully obvious to anyone watching. By the final game, she looked completely exhausted, carrying too much of the load while trying to fit into a system that just didn't suit her style. And then came the injuries. One by one, key players went down, exposing the Fever's lack of depth for everyone to see. The front office blamed coaching decisions, while players pointed fingers at the conditioning programs. When the losses kept piling up, the message became clear. Something had to change, and fast. The Fever had zero intention of repeating another year of underachievement with one of the most hyped players in basketball history sitting on their roster. So after the elimination, calls were made before sunrise. Agents were notified, lockers cleared out, and 8 players told they wouldn't be coming back, just like that.
Granted, they was running this off ball and doing all these different experiments. without momentum, I don't believe they would have made it as far. I believe they was playing meaningful basketball just due to the amount of injuries that the team took, and it kind of motivated them. They said it in their exit interview. The bench power pretty much motivated them and gave them the energy they need to prolong and get through a bunch of them long stretches in the series.
The move was absolutely ruthless, but it sent a powerful message to everyone watching. The Fever were done settling for mediocrity. This was about building a team that could truly win around Clark and Aaliyah Boston, not just survive the season, but actually compete for championships. While some fans celebrated the promise of a fresh start and a real rebuild, others saw something entirely different. A story of power plays, pressure, and control struggles at the top. Because this wasn't just a roster shakeup. Not at all. It was a clear signal that the Fever front office had reached its breaking point. And if you think the cuts stopped there, just wait until you hear who might be next on the chopping block. Because the aftermath of this massive purge made one thing crystal clear. The Fever are finally ready to build around Caitlin Clark, the way she was meant to play.
Listen to what Caitlin Clark had to say years ago.
A huge reason why I came here, and that's what she preached to me in the recruiting process. You know, you're going to have the ball in your hands a lot, and I think a lot of my final schools kind of had that same look, but I think the read and react offense that we run was super important for myself. You know, you're making basketball reads. It's not a set. You're not being told what to do every single time you come down the floor. You're just playing the game you love.
For months, fans have been practically begging the organization to just let Caitlin be Caitlin. No more overcomplicated sets. No more forcing her off the ball for no reason. What made her a generational star at Iowa wasn't just her incredible scoring ability. It was her freedom on the court, her natural rhythm, and her complete command of the floor. When she played with pure instinct, her teammates fed off that energy, and everything clicked. But once that freedom was taken away, the team's entire soul disappeared with it. Inside the Fever organization, several voices have been pushing hard to bring back that same read and react offense, the one Clark absolutely thrived in during her college days. Even former Iowa coach Lisa Blutter's system has been mentioned in recent meetings as the perfect model for how to maximize Clark's talent. In that system, she wasn't just a scorer. She was a creator, a conductor, the heartbeat of the entire offense. And now, with the roster thinning out and more cap space opening up, this could finally become her team in every sense of the word. Sources close to the front office have hinted that this entire offseason will focus on signing players who actually fit that system. High IQ shooters, floor spacers, and teammates who can anticipate Caitlin's reads instead of just waiting around for set plays to be called. The goal is to recreate that Iowa on steroids style of basketball, fast, free, unpredictable, where Clark dictates the tempo and keeps defenses constantly guessing. Insiders even joke that if you're not ready to shoot, cut, or move without the ball, don't even bother showing up to training camp. Caitlin herself has been incredibly patient through all of this, but her frustration has been visible if you were paying attention. During press conferences, she carefully chose her words, but she dropped hints about wanting a more fluid offense. Fans remember her saying she just wanted to play basketball again, which was a quiet but powerful message about how suffocating the structured system had become. Behind that calm, professional composure was a competitor tired of playing within limits that didn't make sense. And for Fever fans, this shift is about much more than just strategy. It's about identity. The organization knows that when Clark is truly unleashed, everything changes. The energy in the arena shifts. The chemistry on the court clicks. Even opposing defenses are forced to completely rethink how to guard them. This rebuild isn't just about cutting players who didn't fit. It's about cutting the excuses that held them back. It's about aligning everything, the coaching philosophy, the recruiting strategy, the rotations, around the player who single-handedly revitalized the WNBA's entire fan base. And if the Fever fully commit to that vision, they could become absolutely unstoppable. But that depends on one critical thing: whether Stephanie White and her coaching staff can adapt to this new reality. Because the same coach who has leaned so heavily on rigid playbooks now faces the defining moment of her career. Either she evolves with Caitlin's game and embraces this new direction, or she becomes the next name on the exit list. Simple as that. The front office has made its move and sent its message. Now the real question is, will the coach follow the vision, or become the biggest obstacle standing in its way?
Play, and this is what I've been saying. We need to go back to the basics. And the basic is this style of play with Caitlin Clark. giving her the ball. Let her play freely, openly. Let her do what she do. No calling different sets going up the court. No doing none of this. Put players around Caitlin with that know how to obviously resets, know their responsibility, because Caitlin Clark said it hurts.
Now, about the style of play. And this is what I've been saying all along. The Fever need to get back to basics. And the basic thing is simple. Play the style that works best with Caitlin Clark. Give her the ball. Let her play freely and openly. Let her do what she does best. No constant play calling up the court. No overcomplicated sets. Surround Caitlin with players who understand spacing, who know how to read and react, and who fully grasp their responsibilities. Because Caitlin Clark said it herself, as the dust settled from the massive roster cut, one name kept circulating behind the scenes over and over again: head coach Stephanie White. Once praised for guiding a young, developing team, she now finds herself at the center of growing tension that everyone around the organization can feel. Insiders say her relationship with the front office has quietly deteriorated over time, and the reason is actually pretty simple. Her system doesn't match the direction the Fever want to take moving forward. White's structured, play-by-play offense worked for a while. It had its moment. But with Caitlin Clark leading the charge, it started to feel completely outdated. Fans saw it. Analysts pointed it out on TV. And now the front office has made one thing absolutely clear. Change is coming, whether she likes it or not. White's supporters argue that she was dealt a tough hand. Multiple injuries, constantly shifting rotations, and a roster full of players still learning how to play around a superstar. Under those conditions, consistency was nearly impossible. But her critics say she flat out refused to adapt, clinging stubbornly to a rigid system that stifled creativity and slowed the entire team down. Too often, the offense looked painfully predictable: endless pick and rolls and isolation plays that boxed Clark into tight spaces instead of letting her play on instinct. And for a player who thrives on improvisation and reading defenses, it was like watching her talent get slowly suffocated. The breaking point reportedly came late in the season when internal meetings turned heated. Front office executives pushed for a more open offense centered completely on Clark's decision-making, while White defended her structure, insisting the team wasn't ready for that kind of freedom yet. That disagreement grew into a quiet power struggle that defined the Fever's final stretch of games. After their playoff elimination, one source said management viewed the loss as undeniable proof that White's style couldn't get them over the hump when it mattered most. Players noticed the divide too. Some veterans backed the coach, saying structure was necessary to keep discipline and order. But younger players privately expressed frustration, saying the offense felt micromanaged and robotic, like they were playing scared. Caitlin Clark, ever the professional, kept her words measured in public. But her body language told a different story. If you were watching closely, you saw it. The hesitation, the quick glances toward the bench, the moments where her natural rhythm gave way to second-guessing. It was the look of a player holding herself back. Now, with 8 players gone and the roster completely reshaped, the spotlight falls squarely on Stephanie White and her uncertain future. The whispers about a potential replacement are getting louder by the day. Sources say the Fever front office has already begun quietly evaluating coaching candidates who could bring a more modern offensive identity, one that mirrors Clark's college success and plays to her strengths. Whether White gets another season or not may depend entirely on how willing she is to fundamentally change her approach. Because at this point, the message from management couldn't be any clearer. This franchise belongs to Caitlin Clark, and if the head coach can't build around her the right way, the next big announcement out of Indiana might not be about a player leaving. It might be about Stephanie White packing her bags and heading out next.
Bree Hall gone, Shea Petty gone, Natasha Howard gone, Bree Turner gone, Damster's gone, that's 5. Ariel Power, Sydney Colson. Hold on, Sydney Colson. And Damster's 8, yep. I believe they lose 8 players.
When the news broke that the Indiana Fever had released 8 players all at once, social media completely exploded. Fans were scrambling to make sense of it: who stayed, who got cut, and why so many players at the exact same time. Within an hour, names started surfacing online, and the pattern quickly became clear. This wasn't random at all. It was a statement. Every single player who got released symbolized a major shift in philosophy, a message that the Fever were officially done with mediocrity and half-hearted performances. According to reports, the cuts began with bench players who struggled to make consistent impacts. Shea Petty and Damaris Dantas were among the first to go. While both had shown flashes of skill, injuries and inconsistency defined their seasons. The front office wanted reliability moving forward, not just potential that never materialized. Next came Natasha Howard, easily the biggest name on the list. Despite her championship pedigree and experience, insiders say her uneven play and contract demands sealed her fate. She wanted top-tier money, but the Fever weren't willing to invest that kind of cash in a player who didn't fit a system now built entirely around Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston. Then came the true shockers, Lexi Hull and Sydney Colson. Hull, a fan favorite and defensive anchor, was let go after her production dipped and injuries piled up. The team simply couldn't justify her salary anymore. Colson's release hit fans hard too. Her leadership and humor made her a locker room favorite, but the front office wanted youth, speed and versatility. And her 2 points per game average didn't justify another year on the roster. Ariel Power's departure was probably the most predictable. She never found her rhythm or a clear role next to Clark, and the chemistry just never clicked. The final names, Khadija Stokes and Chloe Bibby, were younger developmental pieces the team actually liked, but when you're rebuilding from the ground up, sentiment takes a backseat to the bigger vision. 8 players gone. Just like that. The move freed up significant cap space, giving the Fever more financial flexibility than they've had in years. Fans immediately began speculating about replacements. Shooters, lockdown defenders, maybe veterans who could actually complement Clark's tempo and style. But behind all the excitement was a somber undertone. These weren't just names on a spreadsheet. They were real people, casualties of a larger rebuild that demanded total buy-in to a brand new identity. Some will find new homes quickly. Others might not return to the league at all. It's a brutal reminder that this isn't college ball anymore. Loyalty means something very different here. The Fever are moving fast and making hard decisions. Anyone not keeping up with this new direction will be left behind. Still, one question keeps coming up among fans. Did the front office move too fast? 8 players in one sweep feels drastic, maybe even desperate. But to management, this was necessary surgery. Painful, yes, but essential for the future. They're betting that by cutting out the old system entirely, they can rebuild something better from scratch. If it works, this mass exodus might be remembered as the night the Indiana Fever finally grew up and became a serious franchise. If it doesn't, it could haunt them for years, a cautionary tale about moving too fast. With 8 players gone, the entire balance of power inside the locker room has changed overnight. For the first time since Caitlin Clark arrived in Indiana, the dynamic feels unmistakably centered around her. Not just as a scorer, but as the franchise cornerstone everything now revolves around. The veterans who once set the tone and controlled the locker room hierarchy are mostly gone. What's left is a roster designed to follow Clark's lead without hesitation. Kelsey Mitchell now stands as one of the few holdovers with both seniority and deep respect. After years of carrying this franchise through losing seasons, she's proven her loyalty and toughness. Her chemistry with Clark improved noticeably late in the year, and insiders say the front office views her as a crucial anchor, a veteran presence who can mentor younger players and thrive in a faster, freer system. Then there's Aaliyah Boston, the quiet enforcer. Her consistency, both on and off the court, made her completely untouchable throughout this overhaul. Together, Clark and Boston form the foundation of the Fever's future. Clark is the spark that ignites everything. Boston is the steady force that holds it together. That's why almost every move the Fever make now revolves around enhancing their partnership, adding shooters, screen setters, and reliable defenders who can keep up with their pace. But not everyone is thrilled about this new order. Some remaining players have quietly expressed concern that the team's identity is being swallowed by Clark's massive spotlight. Others wonder if management is putting too much pressure on one young player too soon. Clark's popularity has transformed the Fever from a struggling small-market team into one of the league's biggest attractions almost overnight. Every game she plays, every quote she gives, and every decision she's part of is magnified under a massive spotlight. Still, the message from the top couldn't be clearer. This is Caitlin's team now. Front office executives have reportedly held multiple meetings emphasizing complete alignment, meaning coaches, players, and staff must all operate in total sync with this new vision. One source called it a reset, not a rebuild, an important distinction. Anyone who doesn't buy in fully won't last long in Indiana. Inside practices, the difference is already noticeable. The energy feels lighter and more positive. The pace is faster, and the offense flows more naturally. Teammates are learning to react to Clark's instincts instead of waiting for drawn-out plays from the bench. It's messy at times, sure, but it's real progress. For the first time in years, there's genuine belief that this team could actually contend. But power comes with pressure. The expectations on Clark, White, and the front office have never been higher. One losing streak could flip all the excitement into backlash overnight. The Fever made their statement. Now everyone's watching to see if they made the right one. Behind all of this, there's one factor fans often overlook: money. The Fever didn't just release players for performance reasons, they freed up serious salary space. Cutting 8 contracts at once opened millions in cap room, completely reshaping the franchise's financial flexibility heading into 2026. This wasn't just about basketball, it was about structure. Indiana's payroll had ballooned with mid-tier contracts offering minimal returns. Veterans like Howard and Powers carried experience but not results. Sources say the front office grew frustrated watching so much money go to players who weren't consistently producing. Cutting ties was harsh but necessary. It gave the Fever the breathing room they needed to chase high-impact talent, players who truly complement Clark's game instead of clashing with it. And make no mistake, Clark has transformed the business of the Fever. Ticket sales have exploded. Primetime TV appearances are up. Merchandise records shattered. The front office knows that as long as she's here, the Fever are a premium product, and they're determined to capitalize on that momentum while it lasts.